Hi, GERO 508. Today is Sunday, July 21st. And this week we're talking about music and exercise. So, two very powerful interventions for stress and just in general things that are good for your mental and physical health. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that a week from today, so that would be a week from Monday, which would be July 29th, we have our corporate marketing pamphlet due. And generally what we want to see is that you're taking several interventions and talking about them and making them attractive. You got to sell these things to your clients. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're available almost any time to Zoom or talk on the phone or chat by email or text or, whatever works for you. And then our final exam is August 2nd. It's open 24 hours. So if you have a conflict, let me know. But otherwise, we do have a really short deadline to get our grades in. So we don't have the flexibility with the final exam that we might have had with the first midterm in terms of giving you extensions. Our only choice at that point is to give you an incomplete if you can't get it done. So I will send out a review for the final exam. And I'll try to remember to send out an email with just kind of some high points on how to do well on the corporate marketing pamphlet. But again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So let's go to content. Come on, a little slow. And scroll down to module 9, which is music. And just like we have every week, we've got our lecture video, which will pop into the first section of the module. We've got our readings and videos we want you to watch. We've got our quiz on the readings, and we have our discussion. So our discussion is going to be based on that AARP report. So we gave you a short little article that talks about the AARP report, and then we gave you a link to the actual 34-page report. And really what we want you to talk about are the benefits of, what happens to the brain with music. And you can talk about performing music, listening to music, writing music. There's all these different aspects of interacting with music. Talk about how music reduces stress, how does the brain communicate with the body, and what do you see as clinical uses? And we'll talk a little bit today about some of the different practices that are coming up in healthcare surrounding the use of music to improve health and decrease stress in healthcare environments. Okay, so I am going to, let's see, we did that. I didn't pull up my my PowerPoint yet. Oh, well, I meant to do that before we started, but that's okay because you guys are very patient and understanding. So I'm going to click on that and we'll wait, like an hour or so for it to open. Come on. Okay. La, la, la. Here we go. Okay. All righty. I'm going to enable editing, even though I probably don't need to. Okay, and we'll make this a little bit bigger. So I like to see the side slides. Okay, so we're talking about music, and I'm a big believer in the power of music. I run a nonprofit that supports music education that I founded, probably like 6 years ago. And I think that music is important across the lifespan. So not just for older adults, but for children, young adults, whether you're in college, whether you're an athlete. There's so many different applications for music to improve your physical and mental health. Okay. And one of the things that I think is really powerful about music is how it interplays and overlaps with some of our other stress interventions. So when you think exercise, a lot of times we exercise to music. I took a fitness class when John and I were both working at UCLA probably 35, 40 years ago. When I hear certain songs, it makes me want to do triceps push-ups. So I have this very powerful correlation between that song and doing that exercise. And I mean, we know that if we're working out in the gym and they start playing faster music, we may be feeling more upbeat and more energetic. And certainly a lot of athletes use music pre-game to kind of get into the right headspace. So I do think there's a tremendous amount of overlap between music and exercise. We talked about sociality last week. Music and social connection go together really well. We go to concerts together. We might just go to a fun hangout place and listen to music outside. We may make friends because of our common interests in music. We may get interested in new music because of a social connection. And so we have all these dancing to music, going to concert, all these different things where music and sociality overlap. And then meditation. Quite often, if you're meditating, you're doing some sort of, if you're doing a guided meditation, there's some sort of very melodic, peaceful, stress relieving music in the background. And I kind of laughingly sometimes call it whale songs. But it is like that. It's whale songs. It's the sound of rain in the jungle. It's the sound of waves crashing on the shore. But there's all sorts of music and sound therapy that we can use to improve our meditation practice. When we were in Nosara, Costa Rica for our Maymester class, quite a few of our students did a sound bath meditation course at one of the local hotels and really, really highly recommended it. So that's definitely something we're going to have to do next time we go down there. Okay, my dogs are demanding attention, but they're not going to get it. Okay, I wanted to play a song that was created by scientists working with a music group. Now both dogs want to be petted, to create the perfect stress relief song. So the group that created it is called Marconi Union. The song is called Weightless. Dogs need to stop. And I'm going to just play a little bit. Oh, well, let's go to there. Open hyperlink. Let's see what happens here. Oh, my browser's up to date. Well, maybe I'm not going to play that. Okay. I also forgot to close the 1,000,001 things that are open on the computer from John working. Anyway, listen to Weightless on your own. It's that very kind of melodic music that we think of as kind of relaxation music, like you'd go into a spa or you'd go to get a massage, and this is what would be playing in the background. What's interesting is that there was a scientific approach to it, and then there was a study by scientists interested in whether or not this is truly the #1 most stress relieving song in the world. And they compared it, you can see in my little box on the slide, they compared listening to the song Weightless to getting a massage or listening to other types of music that's considered relaxing. And it had a higher relaxation score. They claim that it led to a 65% reduction to overall anxiety, and that the effects are actually so powerful that they recommend that people not listen to it while they're driving for fear that you will fall asleep and get into an accident. And then they measured scientifically, to try to get some data, things like your resting heart rate, your respiration rate, how quickly you're breathing, and your skin conductance to see what your stress levels are. And they found a 35% reduction in all of these resting rate measurements that they took. So I think that's kind of an interesting approach. Can we scientifically design music? Of course, the approach is we're going to figure out the appropriate, the beat to kind of get your heartbeat to synchronize to a certain slower heart rate, maybe 60 beats per minute. And so there's certain things they can do with the song to affect your heart and your physiology as you're listening to it. Okay, come on. Well, okay, sorry, I was clicking on the wrong slide. So there's a really cool website. This one should work. At a university, let's see, open hyperlink. All right, so this is actually working. So this is the University of Central Florida, and they have this really cool website that shows how your brain responds to music. And what I think is really interesting about music and the effect on the brain is that when you listen to music, many areas of the brain light up. When you perform or play a musical instrument, even more areas of the brain light up. So think about it. If you're reading music, your visual cortex will light up. If you're listening, your auditory cortex will light up. If you're playing an instrument, your motor cortex will light up. The two sides of your brain will communicate via the corpus callosum. And so you can run through here and see, it'll talk about, well, why does your frontal lobe light up? Because that's used in thinking and decision making and planning, and music has an effect on that part of the brain. If we look at cerebellum, that's memory. And so we see that music is a really powerful tool with older adults who are starting to experience dementia, or even adults that are profoundly far along the path of Alzheimer's. And we recommend this as an intervention to our friends and family all the time, and it's very, very successful. We play music for someone who's 90 years old who has dementia, and it's music that is meaningful to them. The music they listened to when they were 20, the music they listened to when they got married. And you bring back those memories, and it just is such a powerful tool to wake up the brain. And we have a video this week that shows that happening in real time. The amygdala, so part of the limbic system that helps you process your emotions. And so if you're afraid, let's say you're a patient getting ready to go into surgery, quite often surgeons will now say, hey, I want this patient to listen to music before they get wheeled back into the operating room, because I want them to have a sense of relaxation. I want their immune system to be operating at full force. I want their heart rate to be, at a normal level. I want their blood pressure to be at a normal level. That's going to make the anesthesiologist happy. So I think it's fun if you have time to go through all of these things. Now let me see, go back to my PowerPoint. There you go. And so that's a really cool website that you can go through each area of the brain and see how music activates that area of the brain. Okay, and here's another little graphic that I think is really fun to look at the impact. Like I said, when let's say you're listening to a song with lyrics, so it comes into your ear, the auditory cortex is going to light up and start analyzing the rhythm and analyzing the words, and then maybe your hippocampus lights up and says, hey, I remember hearing this song when I was in college. Or if it's reggae music, I always associate it with being on vacation. And so it'll light up your memories, and maybe your visual cortex, if you're at a concert, or if you're watching someone perform, or if you're reading music while you perform, your visual cortex lights up. So there's, you might start moving to the music or dancing. I'm not a good dancer, so don't laugh too hard. So your motor cortex lights up because you're starting to feel the music and you're starting to move to it. So all of these things are really important. And again, the amygdala and the limbic system are part of your emotional reaction to the music. So if I listen to one of the songs that we played at my mom's funeral, I'm going to have an emotional reaction to that music. If I listen to the song that John and I danced to at our wedding, we always, every time that song comes on the radio, he and I look at each other and we sing along and we laugh, and we're smiling, and we have oxytocin released, and we're having that feel-good moment because it reminds us of a very happy day. So so many different parts of the brain are lit up by music. So this is a couple different screenshots from the website that I cite at the bottom of the page. Music can help your immune system. So again, we reduce stress, we boost our immune system. You can have, as I said, if I listen to the music that we danced to at our wedding, it's going to release oxytocin. If I, hear a song, for example, when my kids were little, tiny babies, we would listen to a tape of James Taylor singing, because he has such a smooth voice, when I would put them to bed at night. So if I hear James Taylor singing, whatever song, it reminds me of when my kids were little. I get a huge rush of oxytocin. And it's very powerful, being used to treat movement disorders like Parkinson's. So your brain listening to the music can help your body perhaps move better. And obviously it's definitely something, as we think in this class, good for stress management. And one of the things I think is really important to remember, it doesn't matter what kind of music it is. It's more, I think for me, it matters more what your connection is to the music. So there are certain songs that are going to be happy songs for me. There are certain songs that are going to be easier for me to listen to while I'm working. There's certain songs that are going to be more motivating and energetic for me if I want to exercise to it. There's certain songs that if I just want to sit and chill and not think too hard, that's the type of music that I would want to listen to. But anyway, so remember, when you are recommending music as an intervention to your patients or your family or loved ones, you have to meet them where they are. If they're heavy metal fans, that's what they're going to want. If they're rap fans, that's what they're going to want. So don't try to force your musical taste on someone else. It really just matters how that person relates to that music. Okay, this is another great graphic that talks about music affecting your brain. When we listen to music, oftentimes we have a feel-good chemical we call dopamine that gets released. And, I'm sure John talked to you about how we seek out activities that will cause our brains to release dopamine. So if you're an adrenaline junkie, you might like skateboarding, or John likes surfing, or skiing black diamond slopes or something like that. But so we seek out these happy, feel-good chemicals that get released in our brain when we listen to music. We might find that if we're really worried or upset, or we're having a really bad day, you might get in your car and the traffic's really bad, but you turn on the music and the music distracts you from whatever's frustrating you or making you sad or upset right now. So it's a good distraction for your brain. When you listen to music, and John does this experiment in his undergraduate class, he has the students listen to different songs and record their pulse rate and their respiration rate. And they track this data over a class of maybe 200 students. And consistently every semester, they see that if you listen to the slow, easygoing song, your breathing rate gets slower. Your pulse rate gets slower. If you listen to the fast, more energetic, upbeat song, your breathing rate will match it. And so it's interesting to me, even businesses will use this as a tool. When you go to the grocery store, listen to the music. They have this kind of elevator music on in the background, but sometimes it's more energetic, sometimes it's more calm. And so music can have so many different effects. One of the things, like I said, music can reduce the perception of pain. So when you go to the dentist, my dentist offers you, if you're going to have a crown done or a filling done, my dentist offers you headphones and a little iPad, and you can select your channel of whatever it is, Spotify or Pandora or whatever. So you can select the channel that you want. There's almost too many choices, but it's great because you put those headphones on, you're not listening to the dentist drill, you're listening to whatever your mood is that day. And so all of these things are well documented with research studies showing that music is effective to help in all these different ways. Okay. So we have this little short AARP article, and there are 2 videos in the article that we want you to watch. When you first pull it up, sometimes it takes a second for the video to populate and show up. The first video is just kind of generally how music keeps your brain healthy, and they encourage people to listen to new music. We have so many options. I don't do the paid account anywhere, but we have our free Spotify account and free Pandora account, and you can go in and you can find other people's playlists that or John has a great playlist on there somewhere. It's probably under Doc Walsh. You can, I have an aunt who is, she's probably mid to late 70s. She's a retired teacher. She moved from Illinois to Florida, lives in a retirement community. She's in 2 different choirs. So she makes music with other people, and then they perform in the community. So she gets to that happy, good feeling of, I'm doing something that makes other people happy, and I get to perform and rehearse and interact with other people. It was hard for her during the pandemic because singing was a very effective way to transmit COVID. So they had to put the stop to her rehearsals for quite a long time. So they, in the video about music keeping your brain healthy, they talk about, music can help you move and increase your movement and exercise, and it can change your mood by putting on a happy, upbeat song. And then I think the second video is really powerful because it talks about how music can be used as a tool to help stroke survivors. And depending on what part of the brain is impacted by your stroke, you may have difficulty with speech, either understanding speech or expressing speech, receptive or expressive speech. And so that's given the number of people in our country that either have already had strokes or are at risk of having strokes. It's, I think, a really powerful tool to help people progress after a stroke. Okay, so the AARP report goes into a lot of detail about all the different research that has been done about music and how it affects the brain. And so it talks about music and memory. And like I said, I can hear a song that was popular when I was 12 years old, and I can remember what I was doing when that song came out. Or I can remember a song that came out last summer, and I can think, oh, that was the song that was really popular. Sometimes we'll be in the car, and John will say, oh, when we were in Hawaii 10 years ago, this song was playing on the radio constantly, and it makes me think of that trip that we took a long time ago. Music can improve sleep. So, a lot of older adults have problems with sleep and insomnia. So anything that can help people get a better night's sleep is going to be very, very good for your brain and your body and your immune system. So that's good. Music can help you cognitively stay sharper, both by reducing stress and the negative impacts of stress, and by improving your brain connectivity and activity, engaging your brain. So that's really powerful. Our AARP study showed that people who engaged with music had said that they had a higher quality of life and lower levels of anxiety and depression. The report talks about the power of music and social interaction and using it in medical contexts like stroke rehab and Parkinson's therapy, and also the power of music with people who have dementia. We had a good friend whose dad was well into his 90s. His wife had passed away. Most of his friends, almost all of his friends, probably all of them, had passed away, and he had become very reclusive, very depressed, very didn't leave the house, didn't really want to engage or do anything. And John told them, does he have any, old music that he likes? And they said, oh, you know what? He has an old turntable and he has a huge collection of albums. And John said, go over to your dad's house, you find that turntable, you set it up, and you get those albums out and start playing them. And our friends called us back and said, you wouldn't believe the difference. Suddenly he's like, hey, let's go out to breakfast. What are you doing next weekend? And it really, really improved his quality of life at a very advanced age. So that was a really, really great outcome. So I highly recommend using this as a tool with your family and friends and your patients. This is the link to the underlying report, which again is a really long report, but it talks about, these are our recommendations as music experts and experts in brain health, that it should be used as a treatment for cognitive problems. We should encourage patients to engage in music activities. We should try to encourage our communities, like my aunt's community, where multiple places have music groups, choir groups, then they have performance venues, they need rehearsal venues. And so we need to have a lot of community infrastructure built especially for older adults to be able to continue to participate in music. It's very easy when you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, because almost every school has a music program. It's a little harder in college, but it's still feasible. There's things you can do on campus at USC. Even if you're in graduate school, you can be in the marching band, you can be in a singing group or a music group affiliated with Thornton. So there's still a lot of things, but once you get out and you start working, you're gonna have to make a little more effort. So our communities need to engage and support those activities, given the tremendous health benefits that exist. So I screenshot this from the Music on Our Minds report because I do think the fact that music helps the immune system is really powerful, and boosting your cytokine levels shows a strengthened immunity. Those cytokines go after things that shouldn't be in your body. It talks about how they thought that using music would strengthen the immune system, help people ward off disease, and maybe even help people that are immunocompromised. So maybe something that could be used with cancer patients or patients post transplant, something like that. And most older people, as you probably know, as you get older, your bone marrow becomes less and less populated with cells, stem cells that produce your blood cells, that produce your immune system cells. And so the general rule of thumb is that the cellularity of your bone marrow is 100 minus your age. So when you start to get up towards 65, 70, 80, your bone marrow is only operating about 20 to 30% of what it was when you were young. So anything that can help boost that immune system is a good thing. Okay. So this TEDx video was kind of fun too, and I took a couple screenshots from it because they talked about using functional MRI to show the brain lighting up when you listen to music. So they said, yeah, the brain really lights up when you listen to music. It lights up even more when you play a musical instrument, when you are performing music. So your visual system, your auditory system, your motor system, your executive function starts to kick in. And so these musicians they're reading the music, they're playing it, they're thinking, am I in time with my other musicians? My dog is here bugging me again. Am I in time with my other musicians? What's coming next? And you're thinking and planning and doing all at the same time. So it has a tremendous positive effect on executive function, which is great for a lot of people who have learning disabilities that might have delayed executive function. Both of my kids were involved in music all the way through high school and for one of them through college. And I think it was, super helpful for them. So, as someone who promotes music in schools, I can tell you, fine motor skills, math skills, language skills. So if you're good at music, you're probably going to be better at learning a foreign language, being creative, and of course that planning and executive function, having a better memory. And they said, well, is music, just another way of exercising or something like that? Or, how does music compare to painting? How does music compare to sports? And when they compared music to painting or sports, they found that music was more effective. And they also mentioned in this video the importance of that corpus callosum, which is the part of the brain that bridges your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere. These musicians were seeing so much connectivity. So you start to see multiple pathways between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, so much connectivity, which is great when you get older, because if you have a little damage to one connection, your brain can reroute to another connection. So having that powerful connectivity in your corpus callosum is really, really important to having good brain health as you get older. Okay, and then we had the scientific basis of music theory video. Talks about dopamine, the feel-good. Remember the feel-good hormone that gets released, and we seek out our dopamine by skateboarding or skiing or listening to music. That engages our brain's reward centers. they talked about, using music to deal with pain and stress. And they talked about, again, emphasizing over and over again, the many, many different parts of the brain that are engaged when you listen to music, when you perform music, when you write music, every aspect of music. Okay, so definitely do not miss this video. It is amazing and powerful. So this is a video of a patient with very, very advanced dementia. So nonverbal, almost completely non-responsive, not engaging, doesn't make eye contact, just kind of head down, barely able to move. And they put on headphones and they start playing Cab Calloway. Which is amazing. And you got to love Cab Calloway, even if you aren't his age I think discovered Cab Calloway through cartoons when I was a kid, because there was a song that Cab Calloway sang, Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby, that was in one of the cartoons that I watched. So after he listens to the music, he starts talking. He starts singing along. He remembers the words to these songs. He starts answering questions. And he remained very activated and engaged and just alive, just so alert for a period of time. So he can talk about the music and explain the music and talk about the past and what it all means. So super powerful. Definitely, definitely watch that video. Do not miss it. Okay. And then one of the things I think it's really impressive is to see someone like Gabby Giffords. And if you're not familiar with Gabby Giffords, she was a rising star politician from Arizona who was shot in the head at a political event. So I believe she was a senator. And she was shot in the head at a political event. She was actually on the short list to maybe be a vice president someday. And then right about the time when that decision was going to be made, she was shot, profoundly impaired, speech centers affected. So she had something called aphasia, where she couldn't speak after this gunshot wound to her head. So she's going to speech therapy and she's working on speech therapy. They start using music and she started playing the French horn, which is a very difficult instrument to learn and play. But I think what Gabby Gifford maybe lacked in her post-gunshot wound, post-brain injury ability, she made up for it with determination. And those two skills have brought her back to the point where she is called upon at times to give speeches. And she'll get up and her speech is still a little bit slow. So you can see that, she really has to work at it, but she will get up in front of millions of people and give a speech. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw her at the Democratic National Convention give a speech. And a lot of that is attributable to her very intensive therapy, including speech therapy, including music therapy, post-traumatic brain injury. Okay, so we talked a little bit about music and sociality. This is a study that I found looking at the effects of people who are playing together or singing together. And interestingly enough, it really activated their dopamine release, their feel-good hormone release. It activated their empathy. So I'm going to feel empathy towards you. I'm going to feel more understanding towards you, which is really good and positive for interpersonal connections. It activates my language centers, so I'm going to be maybe more expressive or talkative, and it decreases my cortisol. So maybe I'm going to be a little less shy. Maybe I'll be a little more outgoing if I'm there. And so I've always really enjoyed seeing that powerful effect of music when I'm engaged in the local community that my nonprofit works to fundraise for, and I'm engaged and see these students. And I had a mom say to me once, my son would not go to school if it weren't for the music program. This is his reason to get out of bed in the morning and go to school, because he pretty much doesn't like anything else about high school, but this is what gets him to get out of bed. And so I think it's just a really, really wonderful tool. Okay. And then music is, like I said, very powerful in terms of athletes who perform at the very, very highest level. People like Serena Williams or LeBron James or Patrick Mahomes. These are people that have to get into a framework, pre-game. I've got to be either, sometimes if you're LeBron James, you're like, oh, that guy on the other team disrespected me and now I'm going to beat them. Or maybe you need to be just chill because you're a quarterback and you threw an interception last game, but you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about how you're going to win this game. Keeps you in the moment. So very, very powerful tool for these athletes who are the very best at what they do. So if it helps them, it's got to help us too, right? Okay. So the benefit and the overlap between music and exercise, we see that people have better stamina. They can work out longer. They can do more. We like to see music that's a little faster, so a little more upbeat and energetic. So if you're going to want to meditate or have a massage or do some like super relaxing chill thing, you might want to listen to songs with a beat per minute of 60 or something like that. But if you're going to want to really just go lift weights, or, when I did my fitness class and we were doing a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and things like that, 120 to 140. So a lot faster than your normal heart rate, but just really upbeat, quickly moving music. And that's going to help you have more stamina. It's going to distract you from maybe the pain of the exercise and what you're doing. And so the other thing I think that's very successful, especially for professional athletes, maybe you have a song that you listen to before a game and you won that game. So now you're going to start listening to that song and you're going to think, okay, that song is just going to keep wearing a groove in your brain. Hey, I was successful when I listened to that song. So you can get yourself in the mindset of I'm going to win, I'm going to be successful, calms you down, reduces your stress, gives you a lot of confidence. So kind of cool. Okay, that's everything I have for music and exercise. I'll make another video, just music, sorry. I'll make another video that's about exercise, and we'll post both of these and send them out tonight. So, all right, everybody, fight on. Happy Sunday.